Hi, Liz. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
I can hear everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. It is 2 o'clock. And Sylvia, would you mind doing roll call?
Yes. Arib,
Here.
Sarah Porter,
Here.
Natalie Sanchez,
Here.
Chris Smith,
Present.
Charlene Bybee. Jessica will be absent today. Peg,
I'm here.
Elizabeth Flores,
Present.
Mackenzie,
Here?
Ashley Daftery will be absent today. Jorge Montano Figueroa, and Annie Zucker.
Here.
You have quorum.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sylvia. That moves on to item 1.03, the Pledge of Allegiance. Outstanding. That moves us on to item 2.01. This is approval of the minutes for the May 4th, 2026 meeting of the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission. This is for action, so I am looking for a motion.
I'll motion to approve. This is Annie Zucker.
Is there a second?
Chris Smith seconds.
Is there any public comment, Sylvia?
No public comment.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. Motion passes. On to,
If I may, I apologize, this is Liz Flores. I was absent, so I will be abstaining from the vote.
perfect. Thank you, Liz. On to item 2.02. This is for presentation and discussion only. This is for the K through 12 digital instructional and assessment tools used to support student learning and the process for approval in the Washoe County School District. And Dr. Lamarca will be our presenter.
Thank you, Chairperson Sanchez and members of the Commission. For the record, Paul Lamarca, Chief Student Services Officer. So this is an interesting item that we're bringing to you. We put a little bit of a packet of information, but it hopefully will just be a dialogue. We're kind of exploring some issues right now. You probably are aware that nationally there has been increased debates regarding screen time and the assumed ill effects on student learning, ill effects on social emotional health. As a reference point as well, if you go back to last school year, I believe in November, you received a presentation from Deputy Superintendent Tiffany McMaster on the Phone Away Learn Today initiative, and that was sort of a preview prior to it being launched in the school district, and it remains in place at this point. Additionally, you have for some time now, whether sort of knowingly or not, viewed technology as a potential safety issue, and that's evidenced by the toolkit, where we have a section dedicated to digital safety, and you have a number of things that you point at for the public in that toolkit. And in the fall, I believe in September, it may have been October, we talked very briefly about wait until 8. And it's not a district adopted sort of movement or tool, but you guys added that, like some information regarding that to your toolkit so that parents were aware of some of the concerns that group has, some of the benefits to waiting, that sort of a thing. And so clearly this has been an issue for us. I think one of the reasons I bring these things together, not because they're the same, but actually because they're different. But I think one of the problems I'm seeing is everything's just getting lumped together. So right now it seems like there's this almost zeitgeist that screen time equals bad. And it might. I don't know. I think that remains to be seen. It's fairly ubiquitous at this point within our home environments, our sort of working environments, our school environments. So I don't think technology is going away, so it's here. So it's a very complicated kind of set of issues that we need to start taking a very close look at. And I think some people have been for some time. So minimally, there are several things that we have to do when we consider this. First is distinguishing between devices. So phones versus devices. Largely, you can do the same things with both, but there are unique features, especially of the phones, that are very different than the devices or the laptops or tablets, which may lend themselves more to instructional learning. So that's an important distinction. I think there's other distinctions. There's distinctions such as, is the screen time very directly associated with student learning versus what I would call just idle screen time, like what I do every morning. After I get up, I make a cup of coffee and I play a couple puzzles on my phone. That's idle screen time, and I don't know if it's healthy or not. And age is one I didn't bring up here. So it might be very different from a 60-year-old guy versus a 6-year-old child in terms of the impact that might have. We need to distinguish between content, and kind of got into that with the learning versus idle, but even among content that we're looking at, are we talking about legitimate learning tools, like reading a book? Some of you have Audible. You probably are listening to books. You know, I think that's probably a really positive thing. But there's a variety of apps that may be used, and they differ. They all differ. There's social media, which is very different. There are games that kids are playing. There are short form videos, which are getting more sort of attention, especially because of how they may create in children in particular a stress response, just because of some of the, I was going to say nonsense, but then my biases might come out. But the infinite scroll and the provocative images and things that kids may see or adults may see while they do that. And I think I said social media, but what's kind of sort of bridging these two is AI. Like, is AI a learning tool, or is it your therapist, or what is it? And it's really challenging. And again, it's here. I don't think it's going away. So what are the proper uses? That's something that we have to get behind. So in your packet, you've got some information. It's pretty much available, I think. Some of it might be from the internal or intra site as opposed to the external site, but I think most of what I gave you is on the external site. And that's information from our Information Technology Office. I think it has their mission, which is essentially to support schools with technology, all things technology. That's, they have hardware issues, if they can't access certain things. If they are trying to use software and they're struggling with that, we have an IT department that supports schools. They are very much a part of sort of the development of and implementation of technology standards within our setting, within the district setting, but also statewide. And they're trying to promote and maintain, foster 21st century learning, which is not just technology. I think oftentimes it gets kind of confused with it, like it's about technology. It's not. It's about critical thinking and higher order thinking, innovation, communication, a whole bunch of things, but recognizing that technology is very much a part of that, especially for students today. So that office has a lot of responsibilities. One of the things they do as well, as you can imagine, or not imagine, probably you have a number of things on your, if you all have phones, you've got a bunch of apps, and you probably have computers and You have a lot of things that you have going on at home. So our information technology office has has a articulated process for essentially vetting tools. I think we have about 500 approved tools. That doesn't mean 500 tools are being used in every school every day. I'll also say that the large majority of those tools are not tools adopted by the district as a whole, like all schools will use. In fact, the number of tools that the district adopts that all people will use is fairly small in number, but it's still substantial. But it's all our curriculum tools, our assessment tools, all of which, or nearly all of which, have now a digital learning component to them. It's not all digital learning. A couple of them are, like Ingenuity, something like that. But Benchmark or what's the name of the new math? Reveal Math, our SEL curriculums. They have paper, they have workbook kinds of things. They also have technology tools. And so they will vet those things. You do have a list. I broke it down for you, or it's broken down for us at the website. And it's a pretty long list. But if you hit any one of those bullets that you see, then a whole bunch of other tools come or are identified. And so, and they're all over the board here. I just included them all. Probably the ones that we are most sort of concerned about are educational software and learning platforms. But there's some others that have some important rules as well. And then finally, in terms of what we provided to you from the website, and it's another concern that we have to think through as we're really looking at this, is let's say that there are legitimate benefits to digital learning tools and the use of technology in classrooms. What are the risks associated with that use? We're talking about kids who are inherently at risk or they're vulnerable. And so we have to be very cautious about privacy. And so our district, led by our Information Technology Office, takes that very seriously. We adhere to FERPA, we adhere to COPA, SIPA, some other rules, because we don't want people to take this information and share it in some manner that could hurt kids, okay? So we have to know whether that risk, because there's always a risk, is worth it. Is the benefit greater than the risk? So that's another kind of component of this to tease apart. I will shut up in just a minute and hopefully you'll talk. So again, you've already as a commission taken this very seriously, and what I'm kind of foreshadowing is that I think next year we're going to take a deep dive into screen time and all those different component pieces that we just talked about. And that's liable to take multiple forms, some of which you can inform today. So I do envision a literature review, a comprehensive literature review, not just a quick Google search, but really taking a close look at vetted material that talks about the pros and cons of smartphones, tablets, different content, et cetera. Our district has committed to take some efforts to really do some strong program evaluation. We have a great accountability arm that I'm not sure has ever been in front of your commission, but our accountability office does incredible work. They will be doing some focused evaluations of certain programs, and I think what they're going to ask is for this commission to review some or all of those to provide input, because that's part of your charge. And then ultimately, if we see fit or you see fit, you would form recommendations for the consideration of the Board of Trustees. Okay. So I know you didn't expect this item to come your way, but it's kind of here. And I do think that you have a very important and useful voice in this conversation to support the district moving forward in the best possible ways. So really, I'm interested in questions that you might have, just generally about what I just said out loud, but digital tools and their place in education, and anything else that's related to this topic that Andrea will let us talk about.
Great. I have a question. Annie Zucker, are there any schools, and I want to say still, but maybe it was never, and I just had heard, that are reliant on tablets? Like they're school-issued tablets and all the kids have to have a tablet to be able to do their work?
Yes and no. Yes, all of our schools are reliant on tablets because of the amount of things that are occurring that do require that tool, but we don't have strict one-to-one environments where every student has their own tool that they have to have. So we have, in many of our schools, we have like banks of computers or carts of computers that can be used in different classrooms. They almost all have settings that are all computers. So it's kind of a mix, but technology is in every one of our buildings.
Can I add to that? Sarah Porter for the record. I think you might be thinking of Annie. They did have one-to-one schools maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I remember when Polikitis, and I see Mr. Ngadi back there, when that first opened, it was a one-to-one school because my kids were there, and it was, oh, this is so cool, right? But then it was clearly that it was super unfair that these new schools were getting one-to-one, but maybe the old schools were not getting that retroactive. So I think that lasted maybe 2 years, because by the time we went to Jaywood Raw, then that was not a thing anymore. It was, like he said, there was in the classroom, but you didn't take them home. They weren't individualized to each kid. So it kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, Trainer Middle School was our first one-to-one environment. It wasn't completely one-to-one, and that's actually about a decade ago. Tiffany McMaster was the principal at the time for I don't trivia sake. The problem with, well, one of the basic problems with one-to-one environments, one, especially at the elementary level, is you have significant developmental differences between kindergartners and fifth graders. So there's some questions there. But there's also just the refreshing of machines, making sure there's always, if you're going to rely on it, the kid has to have access to it. So that it's a big lift for a school district. Yeah. I do think we promote blended learning in all buildings. Yeah.
Sylvia, is there anyone online with any questions or comments? Okay, great. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, let's hear. Oh. Sarah and I are dueling all the time. My other question just revolved around if there's policies or if there's anything around teacher communication with students electronically.
Yes, so there's policies for staff around technology use. There's policies for students around technology use, and at this point, they might be folded into the same one. I don't have that one offhand. I could probably look it up really quickly. And we do have some general expectations regarding communication between teachers and students. We don't encourage or recommend use of personal sort of cell phone communication with students, but all students are issued email accounts. It's tied to their student ID. We have many schools that are using things like Dojo and other sort of platforms that allow for communication. We use Teams for communication. We use ConnectEd for communication. And we do have policy and regulation that sort of governs that. But it would probably be really important for you all to take a closer look at that when we get into this.
Commissioner Porter?
You touched on it, but one thing, it was with AI, and that being really looked at as part of this next phase of things. And I would say not in this, oh, it's a big scary thing. A lot of it is how do we work with it? How do students use it and use it appropriately? I work in digital marketing, so that's kind of my world, and it is not going anywhere. We have to learn how to use it. It's just like when the iPhone first came out, we thought everything was going to just completely change, and it did, but we figured out how to adapt to it. And it's the same thing with this. You know, we can't expect that kids aren't going to use AI in any capacity for any of their work, and it makes their work better if they use it the right way, and that's going to be expected when they get in the workforce to be able to know how to use these tools. So that just to say that as we're reviewing this, not being this big bad thing, but it is a thing that's here, and how do we use it appropriately, and how do we educate students on how to use it appropriately, and teachers?
I think you're right, and I think our current superintendent believes you. Has the same mindset. We do have a new policy around AI and its proper use, but it is a work in progress. We use Copilot as a school district. We encourage its use, but we encourage its proper use. You probably have seen some technology at our website where we have AI-driven kind of questioning and answering, and it feeds on itself and it learns better. But if I can put them on the spot, I wonder what Arib would say, the extent to which you guys are using it.
Yeah, so Arib for the record. And so are you asking kind of how we use as students AI in the classroom?
I'm asking that, as well as the extent to which, and it's not a knock on your school,
Yeah.
but the extent to which you guys have been supported in its use, like proper use.
So far in all my classes, I think AI is seen as something really bad. It's discouraged, I think, in all of the classes. And I haven't met a teacher yet that kind of encouraged its proper use. And I know personally a lot of students do use it. So definitely that's one thing that people try to get rid of, but they can't really. So yeah, does that answer? Or, yeah.
And Commissioner Porter, for the record, I would just build on that. That's the same feedback I've gotten from my kids as the teacher says, if we use any AI, we're gonna have a failing grade, she's gonna know, we're gonna put it through all this. And my response as a parent and someone in the working world is, you need to know how to, it's like not teaching them how to use a computer, period, or a keyboard, or not have type. I mean, it's just where everything's going. One of the first things I look at for people that are on my team is, do you know how to use Claude? Do you know how to use ChatGPT? Do you know how to use Perplexity? Like, there's lots of things where it's becoming a tool, just like the Microsoft Office suite is a tool, and you need to know it. So it is discouraging for me that right now, there seems to be a mentality with teachers that we don't even talk about it. We don't look at it, we don't touch it, and I don't think that's the right way to go.
I think there's always been significant concerns, legitimate at times, by teachers regarding cheating, plagiarism. And there's this big difference too, which is probably getting outdated, but our kids, even Arib, you're a junior now, but you're what we would consider a digital native, and I'm not. And I think that tension still kind of exists. There's this fear. But the same is occurring at the district level. I will tell you that, and I'll try to do it to where I don't give anything away, but a staff member did a type of an evaluation, and the supervisor of the staff member thought, that looks like AI to me. So the director submitted it to our accountability office. There's software that you can run to sort of determine how much of this is AI. And the entire report was AI. But the accountability office response was, but it's a really good evaluation. So what are you worried about? So that's where it lies. It's like, how do you take that organization of information, clarity of thought, but then make it your own? And it's not easy. So, yeah, we have to get people past that.
Go ahead, Reed.
Yeah. I just had one more thing. So I did notice in like some of my dual credit classes at TMCC and UNR, some of the professors there actually encourage using AI. It's different to how our school does it. And they give like a list of how you can use it professionally and what counts as like academic dishonesty. And I noticed that a lot of students in those kind of classes, they tend to have more like organized kind of structure in their class, and their assignments seem to be more relaxed, and it really shows kind of, yeah.
That's helpful. Arib, I have one more quick question for you before we go to Commissioner Smith. With AI in general, in either setting, either at TMCC/UNR or at the school district, has anyone talked about some of the other uses of AI? So from a mental health perspective, I am very concerned and worried about when I have students and clients that go on and talk to AI they've been encouraged to do certain things.
Yeah, so do you mean like when students talk to AI as like a friend or like therapist?
Yes, yeah,
Personally, some of my friends do that, and
Yeah.
it's probably like one of my biggest concerns with them.
Okay.
Like I'm always like, might as well talk to your friends instead of some robot that keeps like encouraging and like agreeing with whatever you say.
yeah,
So far, I noticed that teachers also don't prefer that, and they also kind of want to tell their students. I know my English teacher has told her students to like relax on telling AI as like a therapist and
Yeah.
treat it more as like a tool instead of as a friend. And yeah, I totally agree with it. It's very concerning.
okay, yeah, I was just curious at what parts of that conversation we're getting out there, because I think that's an important part too. Is it a tool, or is it, replacing something that's relationally outside of its scope of practice? So, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lamarca, thank you for the presentation. This question may jump into the weeds, and I apologize if it does so, but I'm curious about, with the 500 or so approved tools that are already in the system, how does the district monitor whether those approved tools are being used in the ways that were consistent with the approval? Like, as software will evolve, does that change? And does the district go back and evaluate or reevaluate those, like say with an enhancement of AI in the tool all of a sudden?
Those are really good questions, and I think we're learning as a district, especially because of how stale some of the approved tools have become, that there needs to be closer ongoing monitoring, perhaps a yearly renewal or some time frame that makes sense. I do think so. What the district essentially does, and I wish Dr. Turner was here to talk about this, but I'll try and botch it up as least as possible. If someone has an idea, like I've got this problem and there's this tool that will solve this problem, the district has a set of criteria that they look at that tool against. One of those is, are there already tools available that'll meet your need? And if there are, we would recommend you use this. If it isn't truly unique or it has a pedagogical advantage, it's important to allow it to be used. Then a sort of a second tier question is, are they requesting any student information or not? If they're not, then there's probably not a large problem with it. If they are, then it requires contracts, and it requires not necessarily exchange of money contracts, but contracts that help us know that they are handling and storing data appropriately. They're adhering to FERPA, COPA, those kinds of standards. What we also do, as I understand it, is all the tools we approve that require a student sign-in, we run through another program called Clever. But what it allows for is sort of almost like I want to say single sign-on, but it's not necessarily single sign-on, but it controls the signing on. So a student isn't trying to grapple with 5 different logins for 5 different pieces of technology, or a teacher or someone else. They can go through Clever. Those things are available to them. They've already been rostered in. So that helps control that to an extent. But I do just recently with Chris, because we're getting renewed attention ourselves. I know that Dr. Turner has some plans to sort of strengthen the monitoring and the use policies around it. Yeah.
Any other questions in person or online? Okay, seeing none, we can't wait to hear more about this next season.
One last comment, because you made the comment about the AI chatbot thing, I will forward, if Sylvia will remind me, I'll forward to the commission a link. It's to a podcast, and it's Jonathan Haidt, and it's a medical doctor, and they're really talking primarily about short form videos, but they do get into AI. And that's a real, I mean, how many times have you been like on a bus or something and everyone's on their phone? So this thing that's supposed to connect us isolates us. But there are some really heightened concerns when it comes to the use of these bots for friendships and therapy in particular. Really scary stuff.
To be continued. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. Let's move on to item 2.03 for presentation, discussion, and possible action to provide feedback on the Safe and Healthy Schools Commission's draft presentation regarding subjects previously approved during the May 4th, 2026 Safe and Healthy Schools Commission meeting and scheduled to be presented at the Board of Trustees on July 21st. And Dr. LaMarca.
Yes, thank you. Chairperson Sanchez, members of the commission, Paul LaMarca for the record. The first thing that you'll notice is the date says July 21st. We thought we'd be on at the end of May, and then it was in June, and now it's in July. So hold on to your seats. But I think we'll probably get there in July. They just have very stacked agendas right now, and with the change in superintendent, it's been a challenging time for their meeting organization. So I think we talked about the commission has pretty much annually, a couple times a year in some cases, gone to the board with information. That's actually built into Board Policy 5800, which you reviewed at your last meeting, that we're supposed to provide some sort of informational update to the board on an annual basis, and this is what that's about. So at that meeting, and this is the draft presentation for the board. You and all that comes at the end, but I'll just say it now. You don't need to act to accept this presentation. You don't have to take any action. It is an action item because if as a board or as a commission, you want something added or you think something should be deleted or you think something should be revised, as a commission, you can make that recommendation and we'll do our best to help that. So we want to review the 2026 goals with the Board of Trustees in part because they helped form these goals. So again, it's reviewing policy, something we've been doing, promoting training of Washoe County School District employees, especially around mental health, continued development of our comprehensive substance use prevention plan, and then further developments around the information sharing with parents around safety. And so at we had 6 meetings this year. We had the one that got postponed or canceled in April, but we met again in May. So each one of those agendas, this year we built relative to your goals. We had a number of discussions about bathroom safety, substance use prevention. It was around November, or it could have been December, I don't remember. I don't think we meet in November anymore. So it might have been December where we had been promoting mental health trainings. We showed you some of the materials on that. You've had ongoing conversations with Andy Casanari regarding like the gun video and then her plan to further disseminate that. And you've looked at some policy, 5800 in particular. We were going to bring a policy today, but we will bring that to you later. So those were sort of the meetings that we had. So 2 of the big items that we will talk to the board about are bathroom safety recommendations. Again, you guys heard from students, from principals. We looked at national best practices. We had a small survey that went out. And then these were the considerations that you took them all at the last meeting, if I read the minutes right. There were a couple of these items that you'd like to see done sooner rather than later. And that will be shared with the board when we talk to the board. We had substance use prevention has been a major focus of this commission for the last couple of years, really 3 years. You've had multiple presentations this year, and it's been in the spring. You've had a couple of discussions around Teen Intervene, and the recommendations really are to try to expand that model. And at the same time, because it's not inexpensive to probably end the substance use prevention model that's currently in place, as well as what we call VIP, Violence Intervention Program. that's being handled by a different office and department, so that isn't a concern in terms of pulling resources. But again, these recommendations will be shared with the board at that time. Digital practices review, and the second bullet relates to what we just talked about. You've also, again, you've weighed in on Phone Away, Learn Today. You added Wait Until 8 to your toolkit. This is an area of safety that is within your purview, and we will share that with the Board of Trustees. And then this is one that you may want to spend a moment looking at, but here are some proposed goals for the following year. The board may have its own, so we have to be ready for that, but we would continue to do policy and regulation review. That's part of why we have these committees, as well as training and practices review. So for example, when Roy Anderson comes and talks to you about emergency preparedness, he will be here earlier in September. He was going to come today, but he couldn't be here. Or when Safe Routes to School comes and talks, that's within the practices training portion of this. So you're always going to get that kind of stuff. A continuation with substance abuse. So if we are able to expand out on Teen Intervene, I think that's worth our time to, is it making a difference? Is it worth continuing? The new one, okay. So there's the screen time piece we just talked about. We're gonna propose that as a goal for this group to the board for the commission, assuming there's not any big consternation around that. The one that is brand new is student wellness. So there's federal rules, there's state rules around student wellness, and we have our own policies within the school district around student wellness. This includes a lot of things. It includes things like nutrition guidelines. It includes things like medical guidelines, safety guidelines, screening kinds of guidelines. It includes some instructional time kinds of issues, like how much time kids should be spending playing outside as opposed to learning indoors, those sorts of things. Well, one of the things that we've known but is kind of maybe we haven't been adhering to it properly is the state rules require ongoing committee involvement. And as opposed to creating a new committee, this is within sort of the purview of safe and healthy schools. And I think you have bandwidth. We're not talking about, huge heavy lifts here. We're probably talking about 2 or 3 agendas in the year that would include some information relative to these topics. And then you'd be able to provide recommendations to the board as you see fit. So those are some of the proposed goals. So this is the action item we would give to the board, but that's not for you to take today. Your role would be to ask questions now, to make some suggestions about what to add, what to take away.
I just have a question regarding the board policy 5600. Is that still to meet the compliance of the FDA and their funding for school lunches?
It is in part,
Okay.
yes. It includes our guidelines. So the things like, I know a couple of commissioners have brought up questions regarding caffeinated drinks in schools. And so I'm not saying we can change what is or isn't happening in schools right now, but that would be part of the information that would come to you and that you could weigh in on.
Underneath that same policy, does that include things like PE, physical education?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Recess as well.
Go ahead, Commissioner Pori.
I just am wondering, because we did talk also about kind of the bathroom safety and some of those, is that under, because that's also vape monitors, is that under 2 and 1? Or do you, is my question making sense? Does it need to be a separate thing, or does it already fall under 1 and 2?
We could create a separate goal if, for sure, if we want to continue to really monitor bathroom safety very specifically, you guys could recommend to add that. Absolutely. I do think we could feather some of it under 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Certainly the vape detection is
Right.
part of that kind of comprehensive substance use prevention policy. It's really more sort of response and intervention as opposed to prevention, but it's still part of it. In terms of the training and practices, we regularly hear from Tammy Zimmerman and Adam about safety kinds of measures being taken. So in terms of bathroom upgrades, if we're able to do that sort of thing, they'll bring that.
Yeah.
But it does not preclude you from calling it out very specifically.
So under that vein with what Commissioner Porter was saying, then we can get updates on how the vape detectors are working at certain schools, and great, awesome. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you very much. Chris Smith for the record. Dr. Lamarca, I did just a cursory review of Board Policy 5600, so please don't hold me responsible if I come up with short on this question. I didn't see anything necessarily that was outside of it established a committee of sorts, but I didn't see any like action items in the board policy that they were required to do that would fall upon this commission. Did I miss anything? Are there specific action items that as a commission now that we would be responsible for that we haven't before?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Well, let me just tell you I'm not fully versant on that policy yet either. There is a section that requires that a committee meet at least 2 times per year to review any changes. There's also requirements for us to have a wellness plan that is submitted to the state. So my understanding is that in part, what the commission would do is review that, especially if there are changes or if there are discussions to it. I think the responsibilities have been handled previously, but on a more informal basis, and I think the district is seeing a need to formalize it.
I was actually on that committee, the original committee. And so I think that a lot of the things were outlined based on the FDA's requirement, and now it is just to review and accept them. So I don't think that much can be changed with them. If
Sylvia, does anyone online have any questions or comments? Oh, Reed, please.
Yes, hi. So I just had one quick question about the bathroom safety.
Please.
I thought about this last week, but so my idea is that there's going to be general use bathrooms like we see in Sky Ranch Middle School where there's closed stalls, but there's like one gender neutral area to wash hands and stuff. I just was wondering, how does like the safety and wellness of students with like religious and like kind of disabilities kind of get put into that? Because I know some students in my school have like a religious thing where they can't kind of interact with other male students, especially in like a setting such as the bathroom. And I feel like it would make them really uncomfortable to be in that situation. So I was just wondering how that is like taken into account in this.
Dr. Lamarca?
I think that's a really good comment, and I don't know. I'm going to have to find out for you, and I do think it's an important thing that we have to think about. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, because a lot of kids in my school, they're kind of wondering about that too, because they're also worried, and I feel like it would make them less, like they'd feel less, they would not want to go to the bathroom more, you know? Yeah.
I do want to say that there are some, I'll just call them special needs situations right now that exist, and students are provided access to like faculty restrooms or restrooms sort of within the office area if there are particular concerns. I don't know that that would include maybe religious affiliation or belief, So some of that is control, but even that can be very intimidating, especially probably middle school and high school where kids are in the middle of identity formation, that kind of a thing. So again, really, really good point, and I'll bring it back.
Very thoughtful. I'm excited to hear where that goes. No questions online. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Porter.
Just hearing that and kind of following up, and it's been a big point of discussion for us this last year, and wanting to have physical safety be prevalent as well as mental health and safety. So I'm wondering if we do need to add a secondary, or I guess would be a fifth bullet on that, or fifth goal that is specific around continually following up on bathroom safety as it evolves, as it changes, because it's physical safety, it's substance abuse. I mean, it covers a lot of different things. And most kind of the feedback we got is where kids feel the least safe at school is in the bathroom. So I don't think we can ignore that and just sort of say, oh, it kind of falls under these two. I think we probably should call that out specifically, keeping an eye on it.
Could we make maybe a broader goal, saying that we'd like updates on some of the other things that we've recommended? So to check in to see how the safety videos are doing. You know, I think it'd be nice to have a place where we could check back in on all the prior years' hard work.
I really think at this point, that's your guys' call on either adding one specifically around that or something more general. I do think too that while part of the reason why we were trying to organize the agenda relative to the goals was just to create as much clarity between us and the board as possible. That doesn't prohibit you from requesting through the chair any specific item. So what I want, all I'm saying there, it's not related to bathroom safety. If bus safety comes up next year and it doesn't fit really nicely, you can request a conversation around that, and we can have that, and it could result in recommendations to the board. We have to agendize it properly, but so they're not limiting, but they help us organize. But in terms of adding any bullets, that's your guys' call. We'll add them.
Okay. Now that we've seen the presentation, we've had some discussion. Does anyone have any ideas or thoughts or feelings for a motion? I'd add feelings. It's important. Oh, we'll move on to that, yeah.
Commissioner Porter, for the record, I think we probably should consider adding a fifth item specifically around physical safety in restrooms and monitoring that, because it has been such a big discussion and it's also a huge initiative at the district. So I think it warrants its own line item, but obviously open to other thoughts.
Any discussion around that? Good, Vice Chair.
Can I ask where it falls in the Washoe County School District strategic plan? Like where that would fall, where bathroom safety is?
You know, that's a really good question and a hard question to answer because I think they all really interrelate. It probably fits primarily under Goal 3, which is safety and belonging.
Okay.
But kids will not do well academically if they don't feel safe and a sense of belonging. And so Goal 4, too, for sure. Both of those are part of it.
Okay. All right, sounds like you might have made a motion.
How do we have to do this? Looking at you, literally.
Well, if you're thinking about doing a motion, then we need to take public comment.
Okay, so we'll do that first then.
Can you go back to the
Yeah, that would be helpful.
It seems like that's
slide?
the direction.
That's
Seems
the
like
direction
it.
we're moving.
The slide that top, yeah.
There we go. Thanks, Sylvia.
May I comment?
Please.
I don't think, unless you want to take one away, your motion doesn't need to include anything relative to the 4 that currently exists. But what your motion might be is that you recommend that we add a 5th goal, ...
Specific
or a 6th goal, ...
Here, thoughts? Then you motion, then public comment.
And feel free to jump in. So Commissioner Porter, for the record, I move that we add a fifth goal that would be monitor the implementation of bathroom safety measures and capital projects to improve bathroom safety. Anything else we talked about on that?
I think that's good. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, before we vote, is there any public comment on this item?
There is public comment from Brandy Vesco.
Great, welcome, Brandy.
I wasn't sure when that happened. I had printed some.
Can I just talk? Okay. Hi, I'm Brandy Vesco, mother of a student in the district and former education and technology reporter for the Center for Digital Education. I'm also the leader of Wait Until 8th Reno Sparks. I wanted to thank you all, Dr. Lamarca and all of you, for placing information about Wait Until 8th in the Safe and Healthy Schools Toolkit. Our no-cost, low-effort campaign to help parents say not yet to the smartphone during childhood is low-hanging fruit in the quest to tackle the global mental health crisis. I'm excited to let you know our public school pledge numbers have grown from 27 pledges across 12 schools to 596 pledges across 47 schools in just 7 months. That's all been done with zero funding, a skeleton crew of volunteers, mostly mom friends with their own busy careers, and a district email filter that's very hard to get through. If any of you know any way I could get some help with any of that, I would be very grateful. Right now, we're struggling to meet school demand for our presence at events, and I'm positively burning through paper and ink. I'm trying to start a nonprofit so we can take donations and could use help in this area. Next, I want to talk to you about your proposed goals for 2027 and some ideas I have for reaching them. For goal 1, which applies to physical and social emotional safety, I would like guidance for our schools to move away from publicly punishing and rewarding students for academic performance. Learning should not be a competition because one needs a sense of safety in order to learn, particularly at the elementary school level. Sadly, many of our classrooms have become places of pressure, competition, shame, and low self-worth due to the frequent use of public rewards and punishments tied to student academic performance. For goal 3, I have a lot to say about Board Policy 5600 and the lack of compliance with this policy across schools. Page 4, which I've included all this, page 4 of the Nevada School Wellness Policy, which is the basis of Board Policy 5600, mandates at least 30 minutes of physical activity per school day and prohibits withholding opportunities for physical movement such as recess as punishment. Now, I don't know what's happening at the middle and high school level as far as recess and PE time for physical movement, but I can tell you that at the elementary school level, most of our schools have no PE program and are reducing and withholding recess all the time. So our state wellness mandate needs to be disseminated to all our school leaders and teachers consistently, and we need to find ways to ensure continued compliance. Because in the long run, reducing withholding recess only worsens academic and behavioral issues and limits opportunities for physical health and social emotional learning. I'll save the rest for later.
Great, thank you for being here. Back to the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. The motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. On to item 3.01 for public comment.
You do have public comment from Brandy Vesco.
Great. Good to see you again.
Bit of a formality, huh? Okay. I would love to see our schools embrace the concept of free Let Grow play clubs based on the CDC's recommendation for before and after school activity. Play clubs are simply opening up school grounds for children to play on before and after school. I'd be happy to partner with the district to help make this happen. It costs nothing and only requires a couple adult volunteers. Districts across the nation are adopting these Let Grow play clubs and seeing fantastic results. I've included a chart in your packet from a Title I school in South Carolina that shows the positive impact of play clubs and extra recess on absenteeism and student behavioral issues. Remember, we don't have to pay for complex social emotional learning curricula. Letting kids play with each other is nature's ultimate masterclass. I also want to direct you to the charts that show the differences between Beasley and Moss Elementary School. These two schools are less than 10 minutes apart and have the same demographic of students. Yet if you look, you'll see that Beasley's scores are consistently higher than Moss's, and their chronic absenteeism rate is half what it's been at Moss. I wonder if the less punitive, more playful atmosphere at Beasley has anything to do with these numbers, and I'd love to make data tiles like these for all of our schools, but would need help to make that happen. Lastly, I will speak on Goal 4. The world is now waking up to the fact that most EdTech tools have not been proven to help and may in fact harm student academic and social emotional development. A report by UNESCO, the education arm of the United Nations, found that less than 2% of EdTech tools have strong or even moderate evidence of effectiveness. In May, the Surgeon General's office issued a warning on screen use among children, calling it an urgent public health crisis and directing schools to, quote, limit screen use by assigning work in books or on paper wherever possible. I feel like an auctioneer. Our trustees and district leaders need real, actionable, immediate guidance on how we can start moving in the right direction as far as these best practices around student screen time. Luckily, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have other state and district roadmaps we can follow as we hopefully seek to strengthen our existing phone ban, comb through our existing tech use, and create a roadmap for intentional tech use moving forward. I am very much hoping I will have an opportunity to apply to become a member of this commission because I would love to work toward these goals with you. I applied back in November for the parent vacancy, but it turned out the commission was not accepting applications. I hope you will be soon. Please keep me posted and please feel free to contact me anytime about any of the comments I made here today. Thank you.
Woo. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 3.02, announcement of our next meeting. That will be September 14th, 2026. I just want to say to all the commissioners, it's been such a great year. I have just enjoyed seeing all of you and working with all of you. I feel like this year was very productive, and I feel like we found a groove with working on things, and I think this schedule, it seemed to really suit us. So thanks so much, everybody, for participating. Oh, thanks. Thank you. And with that, we'll close 2:57.